across some other people. Train them if you don't like them. You know.
Ben. That
Excuse
quote-
me.
Redbeard fight me. We were equal level and everything, and he was playing the male martial artist. I forgot the name of it.
All right, everyone, welcome to MMORPG 101. We are very excited to have you with us here tonight. We are coming to the end of our adventure in Final Fantasy XIV. Maybe not for everyone, but as a group, as the MMORPG 101, we are officially putting a grade down, getting a report card, and getting our final GPA for Final Fantasy XIV. And I'm super excited about it because I feel like when we started this in October, September.
Yeah, it's been a while, man.
Wow.
It's been one of the longest periods of time we've stuck with one game, but yeah, it's been
derailed by Endwalker.
Yes, derailed along the way. Had some interruptions, some pit stops along the way, but we did finally come to the end of our time with this game and ready to put some grades on her.
Yeah, I got some things to say about Endwalker.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Sparrow's getting spicy. Let's go.
Yeah.
Sparrow got bit by the once an expansion summoner shuffle.
I have two separate grading systems for this game.
Oh my goodness. So this is just fair warning that we have stands in fire now in the group, and so you may for those of you that do math, you may be able to follow along with them, but the rest of us may give you blank stares on that. So that's just fair warning.
We all have different styles of reviewing. Let's just put it that way.
He may have shared his whole thought process in the Discord chat that we have, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Everybody's like, "Hold on, I'll come back. I have some work to do. Hold on."
I got my bullet points.
I think Sparrow's comment was like, "We don't have to do that, do we?"
No, I'm just a crazy person here, is what it comes down to.
We're all crazy in our special ways.
Yes, I can agree with that.
All right, so the way this works is as I've got pre-made up report cards, and we have 9 different categories, and we're going to grade on each different category, and then we're going to give the final GPA, which isn't like an average of all the categories, but just what you thought about the game overall with all those categories in mind. And so we'll go through each one, and then we'll go through the final GPA, and then that'll be our stream for tonight. So so let's go through the group or the different, we're calling them classes. The GR 101 is grouping/rating. The QU 102 is questing. The SS 103 is spells and skills. The CL 104 is classes, and then specifically my class that I played. The SG 105 is sound/graphics. The CS 106 is cash shop/monetization. The LO 107 is lore. And the AD 108 is addictability, and the FN 109 is how fun was it? So that's our categories for tonight. So we get to start out with like what I think is the most core thing to an MMO, the very roots of like what an MMO should include, and that is grouping and rating. So let's start with Tetsu first. Let's see what he thought.
Okay, so we'll start with grouping and rating. I gave grouping and rating a B. I think that in terms of finding group, they do an excellent job. The duty roulette, duty finder, party finder as well, where you actually don't have a auto queue system, because it's for harder. We didn't actually do that. We didn't end up doing that. I don't think we did. Everything was duty. Either we preformed it, or we had to just maybe 1 or 2 pickup groups or pug members. But for harder content, you ended up having use something called a party finder, which is preferably what I like, and that's where there's some type of interaction. Like, hey, you need this requirement that you have to actually talk to them to a certain extent. That's my favorite method, and that's useful, especially when you're doing harder content. But for lower end stuff that you don't really have to think, use the duty finder for like 80-90% of content. So I think they do a really good job on that. Assuming that you're okay with kind of mindless content for the most part. So I give them a B on that. And again, when it comes to rating, higher end, great job with the party finder. Now, the reason why they didn't get higher than a B was simply because some of it is mindless when it comes to grouping and rating. You go in a party, hello, and that's pretty much all you need. You don't really need much more than that. When in terms of rating, now this is my personal preference, and I know we had discussed this a little beforehand. Where is this rating, or is this my grade personally, or the grade for the game? This is my grade personally. I'm not a fan of DDR, the MMO, so for rating, it's a little bit too quick, fast paced for me. I can do it, but not on a daily basis. So that's what detracts for rating for me. I can do it here and there, but I come to log in if I want to play something fast and I want to, you know, I want to play, Marvel's Capcom, Dragon Ball Fighters, whatever it is. I play that in fast-paced Epic StarCraft at 300 APMs. That's when I go play that. But when I go to play an MMO, I generally want to chill for the most part. So that's my detracting. Mindless grouping and 9,000 RPM rating. So that's what pulls me down to B. But other than that, they do a great job for the general population. So I give it a B.
He broke out the StarCraft actions per minute. That is epic. I love it.
Very appropriate.
Very appropriate. All right. Yeah, that's really good. Cryptvox, what do you think?
Ooh, okay. I think first, grouping and rating. In this sense, for this game, uh, probably should be broken out a little bit, and I'll articulate that. Um, Only touching on what Tetsu said, because I don't want to repeat what others will. But using the duty finder and getting pulled together with other people does a great job. Duty finder accomplishes it. It has everything kind of like listed out for you. Uh, for the things that you have unlocked. So doing your dungeons gets added to the duty finder as you work through the story. Um, the the rating, I did it for a long time. I did it for 4 years. So it is, in my mind, I feel it is very good at exposing you to unique mechanics that take a lot of skill to execute it, while also trying to maximize your damage output. Um, and those mechanics are not uh, particularly obvious when you're doing the rating. Uh, to understand the mechanics while you're rating, you need to communicate as a group. Uh, so you pull, uh, the tank is expected to voice the things that they saw, the healers what they saw, and so on for the DPS. So it's a holistic thing. It's very collaborative, of a rating experience when you're learning it for the first time and you don't have anybody who's the subject matter expert on the fight. I know I myself and Stans were the kind of go-tos, for the 101, but we were doing stuff that was, a little bit dated, so we were very familiar with it. Um, in my opinion, I would give grouping a B, uh, because although you can group, use the duty finder to group, a lot of the things, that are in the game do not push you to group, uh, unless you're doing a dungeon. Uh, Rating, I would give an A minus, only because of the time limitation a lot of people have. Not everybody has the ability to spend endless time in a raid fight to learn it. Uh, and to learn those fights on your own, you would have to queue up in the duty finder to get your exposure to it. And the downside of that is that you'll end up in parties that have varying experience with those raid fights. So you might get grouped up with a brand new party of people and you might be on the last phase of the fight. So, kind of where I said grouping, I would give a B. Rating, I would give an A minus. I know it's about the same, so I would give the overall category an A.
Nice. Stans, let's break into some math. What do you got?
I'm not going to go through the whole spiel, but basically, when I was kind of going through my thought process, I put it all down on paper because I'm a huge nerd and I write documentation as a regular part of my actual job. So I write technical documents. So this is how I think. I throw stuff on paper. Grouping and rating, I'm going to echo a lot of the points that Tetsu and Crypt made. My overall grade is a B. I think it is. I think it's solid overall. Some drawbacks. Some of the dungeons, and this is especially prevalent in the earlier Realm Reborn stuff and that high 30s to low 40s of Realm Reborn stuff can just be a slog or kind of uninspired overall, especially after you've run it a time or two. And there's a little bit of that comes back in Heaven's Word, but the dungeons really, really do pick up once you get past the content we were playing, unfortunately. The part of the game that I've been playing through right now, I've been playing through Shadowbringers, and the dungeons in Shadowbringers so far are freaking amazing. So unfortunately, we did not get to see necessarily the best of the dungeons, but we got to see some good ones, and the grouping overall in those is pretty good. On the plus side, trying to find stuff that hasn't already been nabbed so far. With grouping, there's incentives for veteran players when new people get grouped with them to welcome them and assist them. There's the whole sprout thing. If there's a sprout in your party, I think you get a little bit of a bonus XP just in general. If it's anybody in your group, if it's their first time through doing a dungeon, a trial, or whatever, everybody gets bonus rewards, and that isn't just the XP reward. That's also bonus tomestones, the currency you can buy for gear. So if you're doing your main story quest roulette because you want some mindless grinding for currency, and somebody happens to pop in and it's their first time in there, dude, bonus 100 tomestones. Awesome. And it encourages the community to be welcoming to people who are doing something for the first time, as opposed to just kicking anybody who says, hey guys, first time through, can we go a little bit slow? And getting in somebody who will wall-to-wall pull the dungeon with you. So I think they do a good job of incentivizing onboarding of new players through the grouping system. And one thing I've been also seeing more and more of that I find really good in grouping and dungeons is they're increasingly making use of the vulnerability stack icon, where if you take avoidable damage from a mechanic, not just like, oh, it's a AoE that hits the whole room, you're going to take damage or whatever, or you get hit by a tail swipe or a mob, normal damage. If there's a mechanic that you can avoid and are expected to learn how to deal with, and you get hit by that, you get the little vulnerability stack in your debuffs. So it's showing you, you missed something. So you might have to go and look up something. You might have to ask people, hey, what did I miss doing? But you can see in these dungeons, in these trials, in these raids, in these whatever, this was something where I can learn to figure out and avoid this thing. So I like that. I like that design.
Nice. Yeah, and just to echo that, like, dude, we didn't meet one troll the whole time we were playing. Not when I was playing by myself, not when we were playing as a group, not when we pugged, not anywhere. At no point. And we played for a long period of time, and we didn't see, dude, there's no way that if we were playing EverQuest or the other game that shall not be named, that you could go that long and not see a troll somewhere.
We should add a category and call it community.
Community.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Good point. That's a great point,
Great
actually.
idea.
Did you give it an overall grade there, Stans? Did I miss it?
My overall grade is B.
Perfect.
I basically right in line more or less with Tetsu and Crypt. It's a solid B. The only thing that kept it from being a B+ / A- territory was really just how much of a slog some of the dungeons are in a few of the in a few stretches.
Nice.
All
right.
The trust system is awesome, by the way.
All right, Derek, you're up.
Oh boy. So I'm going to talk about the grouping and not necessarily the rating, because I don't feel like I didn't have enough experience with it to give it too much on the rating side of things. It's very technical, and I feel like there's a lot more to learn there. So I don't really want to comment on that. I'll talk about the grouping though. It's like Tetsu said, it's super accessible, super easy to just queue up, boom, go, run a dungeon. But it's the downside of that, it's very fire and forget. There's no lasting connections if you're not playing with people you don't already know. We were talking about this a little bit before the show started, about games being designed for people to play with people they already know, rather than developing new friendships and relationships. I don't feel like this game's meant for that. Yeah, we ran into, people are friendly and we didn't run into any trolls, but there's more to it than that. I feel like a dungeon and grouping is way more involved in what this game offers. They're basically like, I think of the dungeons and the grouping in this game as being, fancy stages for an encounter. It's like, like I think Tetsu, you mentioned playing like a Capcom game, like very fast fighting game where you've got, APM and that kind of stuff. And they always had those fancy backgrounds. I think about the old arcade cabinets, right? And that's what dungeons and grouping in this game kind of felt like to me. They're just these fancy backgrounds to go through and kind of do different mechanics on different monsters. And like, that's not what that's not what I want in a dungeon. And that's not why I group with people. 4 people is also not a group in my mind. And the other problem I have is the predetermined group makeup. The 1 DPS, 2 DPS, 1 healer, 1 tank, and a light party automatically being done by the group finder. I don't like that decision that's made for you automatically. I think that there should be, and I'm, there might be a way you can actually do this. I think there actually is, when you can unlock it and maybe do it a different way. But just as the default, I think that's very limiting for people to sort of be molded into that mindset right off the hop. I don't know. I didn't feel like I was experiencing like a dungeon in the real world. I felt like it was like an encounter simulator. I'm not going to give it a good grade. I don't think like some of the dungeons are better than others. Like Stans, you were saying, the ones that I've done more recently, near the end of Heaven's Word, I think were more entertaining a little bit. But maybe the ones down the road get even better. I don't know. I'm going to give it a D. I didn't. It's just not what I'm looking for in like a group experience. It's not what I'm looking for in a dungeon group experience. So, bit of a harsh grade, but that's how I feel.
Totally fair. These things are subjective. If it's not what draws you in a dungeon, it's not what draws you.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
I think that's fair. And correct me if I'm wrong, Stans. Like, I think if you queue up as
You can queue
full
unsynced
party,
and you can bring anybody in.
Yeah, I thought I'd read that somewhere.
Yeah.
you can.
You
check
have
unsynced
to do
and pick who you
unsynced
want.
to do that.
So you can.
And you
queue up
mentioned
as 4
arcade.
healers, 4 DPS, whatever you want.
And you did mention arcade, and it reminded me of what Joppa had said, where games feel almost arcadey or plastic.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I thought of, where everything does feel just like you put in a quarter, or aka you queue up, and you go in through your ride, and that's about it. and you played with whoever was next to you in the arcade cabinet, and you never. They could have been a nice guy who you played against, but that's it. All right, see you later.
Let me put a quarter up on the machine, show it on next, and we're
Right.
playing Rampage, and I
Yes!
call the lizard.
Yeah.
We're showing our age here. We're showing our age here.
Crap.
A little bit of the evolution that I've seen of Final Fantasy 14 is we're seeing the game almost a decade after it came out. So those really quality moments where you run around and meet new people and talk to people, hey, where's this? I got that in this game when it first came out. And all of the uh, things that we're talking about, like the grouping up using the duty finder, uh, you did that, but by that point you might have like run around with other people doing quests in the same zones, doing the public quests. The like we didn't do any of the public quests, I don't think, because we didn't necessarily, you know, all meet up to go do those. But people would migrate to the public quests, group up to do them, uh, and somebody might say in the party back then, hey, anybody want to do this dungeon? So those things that we kind of missed by stepping into it at a later time. Also the culture of the
Yeah.
game has migrated from being the grouping up and talking to people type of game, and being very into like the raiding. uh it's migrated away from having guilds, or the free companies that they call them in the game, being geared for raiding. Like you join a guild or a free company to raid with that guild because they had people with knowledge and experience, and they would support you in your endeavor to raid. It's not there anymore. The game's migrated away from that. Now free companies are very social hubs, and link shells are the places you go for finding people to raid.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, keep this moving. Sparrow.
All right, I enjoyed the grouping and the dungeons. To be fair, I probably grouped with you guys more than doing pugs and things like that. Stans and I went through quite a bit at the beginning. We were together, so I was usually with friends. I found the dungeons interesting. I really liked that they increased in difficulty as you leveled. So they kind of start training you of how certain mechanics are going to work, and then it moves on and it gets more difficult. I actually like that because I'm not a big mechanics fan. So being able to be exposed to that before being thrown into all of the mechanics, like with raiding, which I did not like raiding, but I like the group finder, especially if I had stance, because the healers get in right away.
That was
And
a point I didn't get to make. The DPS
Yeah.
gets punished so hard in that
Mhm.
thing. So I don't know, man.
Yeah.
So many more of us.
Mechanics are
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, the mechanics.
Oh, Drac, I played with the most black magest of black mages in a pug the other day, and all I could think of was, this is Drac. This has to be Drac.
What else? I like that my class in particular could fit both the scholar, which is a healer, or the summoner. So that was one thing that made my dungeoning unique, that I could fill, and they level at the same time. I think it's the only class that does that, that has two different specs that level at the same time. So that was nice. Doing the special events around the world, you could do that as a group. I did like that. We only really did that more in the beginning when we were kind of overland more and before the dungeons. I forget what they're called, those special events.
Fates.
Fates. Yeah, I actually enjoyed that because I like wandering, I like exploring, and then you just come across these fates that you do an event and get rewards and XP. So yeah, I did not enjoy raiding. It was way too mechanicky for me. And I understand we're coming in doing dated stuff, so we're getting a laundry list of mechanics to have to follow. But honestly, doing them back when they were newer, I think it would have been more frustrating. Just banging my head for Crip, you were saying you were doing them for weeks, like multiple times in a week for weeks to get to know how to do these mechanics. That's definitely not for me. So that's something would lower the grade for me. Um so for grouping, I think I'd give it an A. And instead of just the B, because the community I think really made an impact. It's probably one of the friendliest communities I've been in. And I wanted to reflect that in the grade. So even though I don't like how the dungeon finder works and kind of throws everybody together and it's quick in, quick out, everyone knows the mechanics, I'm still going to give it an A because they have a great community. But with the rating, I'm going to give it a C because I didn't like it at all. So that averages out anyway to give it a B, and that's kind of in line with what everybody else was saying.
Yep. Very cool. Well, for me, oh man, and Derek touched on this, but it stops and ends for me at 4-person groups. Like that's just it's too small. 4 people in a group is just it's not for me. It's not a group, right? And there's other games that do this, and I'm just going to be just as hard on them as I am on Final Fantasy. On when we get to those, but man, 4 people is just not enough. I need. I don't know where this idea of MMO developers where we just need to keep getting smaller and smaller groups came from, but you're losing the essence of what an MMO is by making the group smaller, and it really just irritates me. And I don't want small groups. I want bigger groups. I want larger group sizes. Let's have 10 people groups. Like I don't know. It's not as fun to me with 4-person groups. I think the sweet spot for group size is about 6. Um, but I'm totally fine with 5. That's fine too. But 5 or 6 is definitely better. 4 is too small for me. It's it's not enough people in a group. I don't like the group finder function in general. I'm kind of old school that way. I'm an EQ guy. I like sitting in chat. I like finding people. I like making friends. So that part's a little for me. So those are the kind of the weak spots. But the dungeons themselves are fun. They're very linear though, right? You go down the dungeon, you experience it the same way. I leveled by only doing dungeons. I think maybe I was the only one that did that out of all of us, except, well, I don't know how Crit Fox leveled, but for those of us that hadn't played before, I was the only one that's just how I leveled. I was just doing dungeon after dungeon after dungeon after dungeon in the group finder, and that's how I leveled. And so, dude, after you run that dungeon like 6 or 7 times in a row, because that's the one that came up on the random thing, like you're like, oh, this is awful, and like. But I would trudge through because I'm just like I'm just a dungeon trudger. That's just what I do. But I like a little I don't know, a little variety, a little something. Needs to spice it up for those dungeon runs, and they're so linear. But
Early,
but there's a lot of mechanics, and it's a lot of fun, and the bosses are fun. It gets a little bit DDO-ish for me, but that's okay. I don't mind a little DDO, and I'm a little bit more maybe probably hardcore raider than maybe Sparrow is, and so I don't mind failing at raiding. I don't mind doing it over and over and over again. That doesn't bother me either. So I think for me, it kind of flushes out at like a B minus. I thought it was a lot. I thought it was the concept of it was fun. I thought the community was fun. I thought they were well designed, very solid. There were no really problems with it. It's just the group size and the linearness of it, where there was just like no altering from the path. Kind of for me.
the leveling for me is kind of phased. Uh, Early on in the game, when everybody is kind of leveling up together, it was quests mixed with dungeons, mixed with doing fates, and that was
The
kind
mid
of how you
40s
leveled.
fate grind.
Yeah, so like one to 41, you did quests, dungeons, and fates. From 42 to 50, which was the max level at the time, you did Northern Thanalan fate grinds, right? And it went by pretty quick. I think you could go from 42 to like 50 in like maybe 8 hours if you grinded
Nightmares.
it out really hard. The second phase of leveling up in the game, after the game's been out for like 4 or 5 years, they injected the Palace of the Dead or the Tower of the Dead, where it's kind of like a mini game that you go up the levels, see how high you can go. They put that in to expedite people getting to higher levels more soon or more quickly.
Right.
So that's how you would level up, like, after the first couple expansions.
Right.
Uh,
Also, I wanted to mention too. I just thought of this, but like with the rating, it seemed to me like there was always an aspect of like I was supposed to know things that I didn't know, right? And I'm sure that's just because we blew through stuff. But like I don't know how MMOs solve this, right? Because that aspect is in like every MMO, right? Where if you join the game 3 years in, like they keep building on what they've already done, and they just expect you to know what's already been. And so it's really difficult for them to like. So if you get a brand new player, like they're entering at like the 3rd level, and you're like, whoa, like they're just overwhelmed. And so I had never like really. I'd done it a little bit, but it was just single player before. So I'd never really grouped in Final Fantasy before. I'd never really done any of the mechanics, and so like the rating was like. I just felt like I was always behind and I should always know things that I didn't know. And it was just, for me, that was a little frustrating of like, I don't know, how do I know what I'm supposed to know? Like, how do I get to that point? That was difficult.
So, Drac, I know you're going to hate this one, but one of the things that I have used and been using to learn either new roles or go into primarily dungeons, because that's what they're aimed at, but those recognizing mechanics carries over a lot into the raids. You get to a point where you can unlock a squadron in your grand company for some of your levels, and then later on the trust system where you can run dungeons with NPC companions.
Oh my heck.
So you can go in and basically like, hey, I've done this place once before. I did it as a DPS. I want to learn to tank it so I can learn the tank job and the actual mechanics I need to deal with without having, so 3 people going, oh my God, what is this person doing? Why are they asking these stupid questions?
Yeah, that system comes in the Shadowbringers.
That's so funny.
I don't need
Yeah,
people. Forget about
they
it.
let you,
So
take in, like,
it's a
with you.
very mixed bag, but I have been using it to really get a hand on exactly how some of the mechanics trigger and okay, what is really doing this thing? Let me just stop and get hit by it 3 times in a row to figure out what's going on.
I don't know, man. That
And
just seems like it makes it even more of a lobby game to me.
It's kind of how they teach you in Final Fantasy, like through doing the dungeons. They use the same debuffs and mechanics and the icons for the mechanics. So
Right.
through doing the dungeons early on, they give you a piece. And then when you go up like 5 more levels, you get another dungeon, you get another piece. And they just keep compounding it as you go. So those raids we were doing, a lot of the debuffs and the buffs that were popping on and off of people, a lot of those things were things
They're
that
expecting
were
you've been seeing these for years.
Right. But they didn't set us up in such a way that we could learn that, because everybody was so overgeared that we could just ignore all the mechanics. We ignored every single mechanic for every single raid, and I mean every single dungeon we ever went into, right? For the most part, we just blitzed through it. So
we can go back at the minimum eye level.
Dude,
there are settings
Let's
to
not do that.
Dude,
No,
for
no.
me, for my personal taste, that's what I would do, because I'm the guy that likes to start on the day one EverQuest TLP with no gear, no items, no nothing, and play the game as it originally was launched, right? That's exciting for me. I like the challenge of, and so, but that's me. But we have got to move on because we are 36 minutes into this thing.
Question
We've only,
answer one
we've only
question.
got one done. So,
I have a feeling we might be chopping some of these sections.
Just
Can put a
disagree.
timer.
so yeah, next time I'm gonna have a clock.
5 minutes, go. Each one.
All
Yeah,
right.
right.
So Tetsu, let's get to questing. Go.
All right. So for questing, questing wasn't. I'll start with questing wasn't really a thing back in the day. It was there. My experience with questing, I'll give my 2 experiences of questing. Okay, my 3 main experiences of questing quickly is you've got 11, which was my original Final Fantasy 11, my original experience, and that had a main storyline quest which you needed to unlock certain zones that you needed to level up in, and then jobs and classes. So it was pretty important, but it wasn't in your face. You had to go search for it or talk to other people. Then came WoW Question with the exclamation marks, and they were pretty important as well, to a certain extent, to get into certain dungeons. And then Final Fantasy's questing, which took it to a whole nother level, which was just it just warped you around the world. The Final Fantasy questing, in terms of I was not a fan of it because it was just fetch like an insane amount of fetch quest from like day one when I started. Now, granted, the quest them. Well, I'm gonna say that for lore. Lore and quest is different. Quest sucked in Final Fantasy because it was a bunch of fetch quests. So I'm gonna to cut it short. I know we're short on time. I'm gonna give that like a D. They were just a bunch of fetch quests. They weren't very good. It's different from lore. I'll go into that later. But quests themselves, it was a D. They were just a bunch of fetch quests. Sometimes I got to ride a giant Magitech chocobo. That's cool. But other than that, it was a D. It was just a bunch of fetch quests. Even worse than WoW, to be honest. Because I didn't explore stuff. I just warped around the world. Okay, that's it.
Gripbox, go.
All right. I'm tending to agree with Tetsu on that. The basic quests, I'm gonna give a D, but there's some other quests that have to be taken into account for me. One, there are beast tribe quests, where you gain faction with the different beast tribes. Those ones, I feel like they showed a lot more love and made a little bit more interesting, had a lot of really fun and funny dialogue to them. I don't think we did those as a group.
No.
Um, those I would give a C plus. Um, and then the main story quests, the path that you take for the what's going on. It's right in the name, main story quest, right? You know, that's where you get in the cutscenes, you're getting the voice acting. Uh, those I absolutely 100% love. Uh, just because of the entertainment of them, and just overall fun that they make me feel. Uh, I give the main story quests an A, but with everything weighted, I'm still gonna give uh, questing a C.
All right. Stance?
I'm going to be echoing a lot of points that other people have said, although I'm also going to note that I am playing right now through relatively late in Shadowbringers, where I don't know where everybody else has quested to, so that might skew a little bit because I knock major points for A Realm Reborn's main story quest, which, as Tetsu was talking, he's describing stuff. I know exactly what you're talking about, and that A Realm Reborn's questing in general and huge chunks of the main story quest are just fetch quests and go talk to this asshole quests. That's it. And there's a really awkward mix in there too. And this bites DPS players. I was lucky that I tend to level as heals, but there's an awkward blend of going through general overlands, story questing, and working your DPS job, and then needing to do group or raid content, group or 8-man content to then progress past a certain point. And if you're playing at a weird time where nobody you know is on, and you're relying on Dungeon Finder or shouting in town looking for people, it can be rough if you're playing DPS, but that's what they've been leading you to do this whole time, to do all the rest of the quests quicker and smoother. So it's a bumpy ride there. But from about mid-Heavensward on, the questing design and writing just skyrockets. And it is a night and day difference questing here versus questing there. The design, the characters, what they have you doing, the writing. So I'm averaging it out to a C.
Yeah,
If we were just talking about old school, like, what I remember most of and have played through many times, I would give ARR an F. Just a flat out freaking F.
I'd really love for you guys to see the expansions and how the questing and the story and uh, the evolution of the game went.
Yeah, my experience is mostly 1.0, ARR, and blood and not a week of Stormblood. So you have to remember that's my questing experience. So
right.
it really reflects in my opinion. So
And-
keep that in mind.
And totally agree from that point of view. I am right there with you, man, because that stuff was rough.
Dude, the
Yeah,
45-minute DPS queue is real, yo. Like,
It is.
all right, Theric, you're up.
Okay, so preface what I'm going to say here with the same thing. I'm through Heavensward into the Dragon Song Stormblood stuff, I think, is where I'm at. Anyway, so that's where I'm at in terms of the questing. But Drac, I don't know if you've prepared the triple F flaming minus.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh it's there.
I'm going there. This questing is so mindlessly, soul-suckingly awful. I you know what, you talk about the dungeon finder, like getting to the points in the questing in the main story quest where you actually have to do a dungeon is like this huge relief where I'm like, oh my god, thank god I couldn't take one more minute of talk to this person, now talk to this person who's 3 feet away, now go talk to this person about the other person. And it's like, it's just this going all over the place for no apparent reason. It drove me crazy. And I super linear. And there's one point, and I actually recorded some of this footage because I thought this was interesting. You're in a Matoya's cave somewhere. I can't remember the name of the zone, Dervinian Highlands, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And you take some quests from her, and the warning pops up, and it says, "Be warned, this is a more difficult quest. You will not be pointed in the right direction." It's like, I was so excited when I saw that. I was like, oh my god, a quest I have to figure out on my own, a quest I have to think about. And I was so excited. And I actually did all those. They're like side quests. They're not even main story stuff. But I'm like, I wanted to see what it was like. And it's like, yes. Why are
Off the leash.
Yeah, off the leash. Thank you. Finally. Yes. So, I mean, I got to tell you, the questing is super, just not, it wasn't engaging for me. I'll say the Heavensward and the Dragon Song, the dragon bits are cool, but that's like Tetsu was saying, that's more lore stuff. But I just found the questing system in this game so tedious and no, not what I'm looking for. Triple F minus.
Boom, laying down the first triple F minus of the day, Theric. Sparrow, what do you think about the questing?
I'm surprised because I thought the questing was fine, but I did pay to get rid of the ARR quests, so I didn't have to do any of those. I had all my dungeons open, so I didn't have to do a lot of that stuff. I just went to different areas, enjoyed doing the little quests there, and then I would go do some crafting quests, and then I would go do my class quests as I'm leveling. I had a great time. I didn't have these like constant fetch quests and go talk here, there, and everywhere. I felt like I had enough of different types of quests that I really enjoyed it. I was just getting into the main storyline right before Endwalker came out. and I think I was in Heaven's Word, and I was enjoying that. So I had all these different types of quests that if I got bored doing one, I just hop and go do something else. I had a whole bunch of different crafting jobs I was doing and questing for those. So I'm giving questing a B. I enjoyed it. I found ways to kind of change it up a bit if I got bored, and I didn't do a bunch of fetch quests and things.
Nice.
So it's a B for me.
Nice. Well, and that's part of the MMORPG 101, right? We're all different people. We all like different things. We have different experiences with the different games. So, for me,
No, Drac, we have to group think.
okay. Sorry.
I'm out.
For me,
Yeah.
For me, this whole thing is summed up in one sentence, which is I paid $15 to skip all the quests.
I'm so glad.
I laid
yes.
down the cash
Somebody needed to mention that.
so I could group with people. Like, seriously, like, you need to make your questing in an MMO, massively multiplayer online role-playing game. You need to make it so you can quest with other people. And it was, other than dungeon quests, when you went into the dungeon with other people, there was no questing with other people. Everything was a solo quest, every single thing. And just for me, it was abysmal. And I avoided it like the plague. I avoided it so much that after I got to the first dungeon, I never quested again. All I did was run the dungeon finder. So,
Why is Drac still a thaumaturge and not a black mage?
True story.
Yeah, right.
I had to go back. Nathan was like, "How come you haven't switched classes?" And I was like, "I don't know. How do you do that?"
Yeah, he doesn't have any of the spells. No skills.
And he's like, "You have to do this quest." And I was like, "Do I really have to do this quest? Is this like my punishment?" Like,
That's the thing. You have to do the main story and you have to do the class stuff. The
Yeah.
class quests.
and
Well, here's something that you guys missed by coming into the game now. The way it was all the way up until I want to say the end of Heaven's Ward was that
30 and 15.
it was that if you played a monk, right? Or let me talk to you directly, Drac.
yeah,
If you played Black Mage, right? You had abilities that you could get from other ranged classes, and you unlocked them by playing those other classes. So you would have to go and play the archer up to a certain level to get access to the archer ability that increases your damage by like 40% for like 10 seconds or something like that.
Mhm.
And you work that buff into your Black Mage rotation.
Yeah, you had to level side jobs up to pick up their cross class skills. It gets better because you used to start as thaumaturge and you leveled up to 30 thaumaturge, and then you would have to level 15 levels of arcanist to unlock being able to be a black mage, not just black mage to 30 and do your class quest.
You guys aren't helping the situation. It's still a triple F minus. Stuck at one of the day, laying it down. Questing is awful. All right. Spells and skills. Tetsu.
All right. And just note, I put it in chat. I really meant to give questing an F. I forgot that there was an F. I said D, but it really was an F. That's what I meant to give it. Sorry about that.
Hey, no reneging, okay?
You get no peer pressure.
Your grade has been given.
All right. So spells and skills. Spells and skills. This is a conversation I actually had with my roommates when I was playing AR and Heaven's Word with them. Is that this particular story stood out to me when I saw this. He asked me at the time, he's like, we came off Final Fantasy XI, and each class was very different. Each job was very different. It's like, I can do this with this class, I can do that with this. My thief can do backstab, or he has poison sting, and so on and so forth. And so, and there'd be a time that you can get like poison sting or backstab, and your thief was amazing from level 20 to 45, but then it was a piece of crap from like 45 to 60. And that's just the way it was. That was life, and you lived with it. And it sucked for you. Black mages were amazing from like 40 to like 60. But prior to that, you sucked. And that was life. You dealt with it. And you know what? It is what it is. Everyone's different. good, bad, whatever it is. My roommate at the time had asked me, "You're playing a monk," because I actually started white mage and a monk in ARR, and he asked me, um, he was playing Dragoon because he was also a floor tanker in 11. So he was playing a Dragoon in 14, and we were doing DPS meters, and his monk and my Dragoon we were doing the same, and then we were playing some other class, and basically he asked, "Is there any difference between you and me?" And when it comes to DPS, I'm like, I don't think so. And we did some Googling, and it ended up being my DPS would kind of in an incline get up to where he was and sustained, almost kind of like dot damage, while his was kind of a burst and it would sit there. But essentially, as long as you did your rotation correctly, we all ended up being the same. So my point is that spells and skills, I'm ending up giving it a lower score. Not super bad because they look cool, and I like how you have to be in certain positions with the monk. You have to be on the side, you have to be on the flank, you have to be behind, and so on and so forth. You have to be off the stage when you were a dragoon. You have to be certain places with your class. But essentially, um, it all evened out, and I get why they did that because people would a lot of times complain that I had another friend who was like, "Hey, this is dumb. I hate that because I'm this, you're better than me, and I get passed over because I'm this class and you're not." So there's an imbalance. There's a good and a bad to an imbalance. But to make all things equal and so on and so forth, um, everything gets homogenized. So all in all, spells and skills, they're cool. They look awesome. It's cool that they homogenize it for the niceties of it, but you lose class identity. So I'm gonna give it a D. I would give it a C because I see both ends of it, but a D because I lean more towards class identity. And if I'm a bard, darn it, I want to sing and not shoot arrows and make everyone happy and strong. And I don't care if I suck from level 15 to 35.
Go play a dancer, nerd.
All right, Critbox, go.
um, so I come from a unique position where I played all of the tanks, all of the healers, all of the melees up until the end of Heaven's Ward. Um, the each of the classes, they have their core job, their core function within the party dynamic. It's just how are you going to execute those things, right? For uh the paladin, I think they have holy ground where they just don't take any damage. uh uh the dark knight has living dead. uh the warrior, they have I forget the
Home
name of
gang.
the other home gang, right? uh the warrior's home gang and the dark knights living dead operate the same way. The only difference is that all right, just so you know what it does, right? The home gang won't let you drop you below 1 hit point. The living dead won't let you drop below 1 hit point. Home gang, you chain the target to you. They cannot move away from you. You also cannot move, right? So it locks you both in place. Living dead from the Dark Knight it won't let you drop below 1 hit point, but you got 10 seconds to be completely topped off on your hit points. Otherwise, if that timer ticks down, you immediately die. So
Living Dead panics me as a healer.
yeah. So I think every single class has their identity, their core function, their skills are unique. It's just how do they function in a unique way? I think that uh, playing across the board, all of the classes, uh, they definitely have unique skills. The way that though the damage output in relation to your own personal player skill, uh some classes are easier to pick up, others are not. Uh comparing the dragoon being a bursty DPS So you have those peaks and valleys based on your dots and your cooldowns and things and your rotations, flank and rear, um, will differ versus the monk, where you have that slow incline and then a long sustain. The ninja, you have burst damage and you have sustain, but your damage cap or your damage peak is a lot lower, just because you have different abilities that will grant a 6% bonus to all damage from everybody in the party. And the complexity of playing ninja, uh, because you have the mudras, right? This is your ninjutsu, your magic. You have a lot of different combinations with 3 hand gestures, and doing them in a particular order, you have to memorize those things. So I think all of the skills have very unique applications to them.
Right.
I think I would probably give them. I'm thinking of the downside of them. There are some, but not enough to really affect it. I'd probably give the skills an A minus.
Nice. Stands.
All right. First of all, Crypt, I feel like I'm called out for my dancer DPS here because that is what I've been maining for DPS, but matter here or there. I think that skills typically are designed in a way that every class has a relatively unique blend of skills that ends up letting you be more or less on par with the other people playing your roles. You just have a bunch of uniquely flavored things that ultimately you're ending up in a semi-homogenized I am performing my role. So there's definitely pluses and minuses to that. Pluses, unless you're looking at the really sweaty try-hard level of content, there is not a non-viable skill set out there. And that's a really big thing. Like, people will joke about, this class or that class being bad or not getting attention, and their skills are terrible, they don't have this, they don't have that. It's almost entirely coming from perspective of people who understand that they're talking about top tier content. The skills are normalized enough that nobody has a bag where they're just looking at their bars going, what is this garbage? I have nothing to do here. And basically every class aside from samurai has some form of group utility that they can bring in, even if it's just a debuff to a mob or a group damage bonus. So almost everybody has something they bring that's not just, I push button, number go down. Not that everybody has to use it, Drac, but every class has one.
Why you be singling me out, bro?
Colin Draco.
I thought we were bros.
I'm pushing it down the road. Crypt called me out. I'm calling you out.
We're kicking the can, Drac.
Yeah,
It's fine. I'm last.
So my overall is a very low B. It just gets pushed up in the C up from a C into a very low B, just because I think they flavor the skills class to class enough that they do feel distinct, even if at the end of the day, I'm basically flatlining with the other person who is performing my role in this group.
Perfect. Derek.
Yeah. So I this is probably one of the categories I'm going to give it a good grade in, because the skills in this game are pretty cool. The way that they're synergized. I know, so I played not only the Bard, but I also leveled up an Astrologian and a Dark Knight as well. So I wanted to get a feel for the other types of skills and stuff. And I have to say that they have very, very different, and they're all very cool. They did do a good job of designing skills in this game and spells. I don't have any complaints on that. I think that, again, we talked about this when we were playing. It's too fast. It goes too quickly. You don't have enough time to really enjoy the what they can do, because you'll click a skill and it'll have like a chance to proc this or chance to give you this effect, but things are moving so quickly that you don't really know. Maybe I'm just not acclimated enough to the game to see it yet, but I feel like I didn't really get the advantage of being like, oh cool, I'm glad I got that effect actually triggered this time. So too fast. The interrupts I thought were like every class is an interrupt. It seems like most mobs are immune to interrupts pretty much across the board, except for a very few occasions.
Interrupt is a very limited use skill.
Yeah, like why? Why is it so limited? Like that sucks. Like that's something I want to be able to time it out. And what felt good when we did it, right? And like this is something we've seen in Pantheon. When you nail that interrupt or you get that silence off, that's awesome, right? Why does this game not allow you to do that? So I get it, but I don't. I got to tell you, I don't know how I would play this game without an MMO mouse, like without my 12 button mouse. I don't know how you play this game. I don't think it's possible because this is like there's such a rotation. Yes, I know, craziness, right? Like you'd have to be all over the keyboard. But yeah, so I really relied on that. Yeah, and so overall I give it a B. The spells and skills I give a B, strong B, maybe a B plus actually. Having talked myself up a little bit about it because I think they're well designed and cool, but yeah.
I think you got a bonus for playing Astrologian because they're a well-designed class, even if I don't like them.
Yeah, really fun. Like always drawing cards and then shuffling them back in if you don't like that, trying to get the right combination up of your draws. Very cool.
I'm gonna talk about it more when we get to classes, but the fights that we did as a group, we were very overgeared for those, so they felt a lot more fast paced because we were killing things faster because we had more damage output. But when we did the turn 4 fight where we had all those multiple mobs on the elevator, you remember? I'm
Yep.
like, Derek, throw your dots on this creature and then throw them on this creature, and that will proc your bloodletter more often. And you're like, oh, I didn't even think of applying it to multiple creatures, and that's how you
Right.
get those procs.
And that for me
Right.
was one of the funnest fights that we did in the whole thing.
Yes. Agreed. 100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, we got to keep this thing moving. Sparrow.
All right, this is where I kind of have to start dividing it into pre-expansion and post-expansion because it's the spells and they completely messed up my summoner. So pre-expansion, I enjoyed the dots, the direct damage. My favorite thing to do is get the dots and stuff on my main target and then use Fester to spread them around to all the group of mobs that was there and then just kind of keep everything going. It felt satisfying. I really enjoyed it. Let's see. The only con to me pre-expansion was that the pet couldn't tank for you. And I enjoy sub-pet classes where the pet can go in, keep the mob off you, and you as a caster get to cast. It doesn't do that in this game. You still get the aggro. They still end up on you. After the expansion, and I got a whole brand new summoner, I did not like the changes. It felt forced. It felt clunky. I felt like I never really figured out what their intention was for it. You're just on this really strict rotation, it seems to me, of cast a pet, then you cast this weird conglomeration of pets, and then you have to go through this rotation of these pets. And they're basically just visual representations of your nuke or AoE that you have to do with them. And then you have a couple nukes that you do in between while you're waiting for these pets to be able to come up and send them back in. So really clunky, way too repetitive. So pre-Endwalker, I'd give the spells a B, even a B+. I really enjoyed it. And after the expansion, it was unplayable to me in the sense that it was just so unsatisfying, was not impactful. So that's my first flaming F.
Yay, another one.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but what are you putting on the grade sheet? What's the grade for the grade sheet?
I know. I mean, I have to go with what it is now, right? I guess it has to be an F because if somebody goes into the game to go play it now, that's what they're going to play. They don't get to play my really cool B summoner. So,
That's
I
awesome.
rated on.
I guess it's an F.
I did progression raids on Summoner, by the way, Sparrow.
You missed the summoner heyday, Sparrow. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, it was fun.
for us who like dot mages.
It was so
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah,
Yep, I
Summoner
really
was the
enjoyed it.
dot mage, and Black Mage was the DD mage.
Nice.
Yep.
So spells and skills for me. First of all, I'd just like to say that for the style that it was, the anime, the Eastern MMO, the flashy lights, the blow things up, the everything sparkles and makes rainbows and whatever, right? Lights flashing everywhere. We go into cardiac arrest. I thought they did yes, exactly.
Flare.
I thought they did a great job. Like, it looks super pretty, and like things are smooth. Things are like, when I push the button, things happen. Like, there's no delay or anything. Like, it just feels fantastic with the spells and skills, and so they nailed that piece of it. My problem with, or I guess my only negative for spells and skills is it feels like everybody makes fun of the Black Mage, like, because you have the one rotation, but that's because the one rotation is it, right? There's not a lot of choices. You look it up on YouTube, you find out what the rotation is, and then you do the rotation, right? Because that's the maximum way to get DPS. And you don't move, you stand in the fire, you make the healer heal you, and you top the DPS charts.
You got two rotations, Drag.
Well, there are multiple rotations.
Single target and AoE.
Yeah, single target. Actually, there's the guy I looked at. He said there's like 5 or 6, depending on how much you move during a fight and how much. But I don't know. First of all, I like to specialize. Like, I like being known as the fire wizard, right? And so, like, I don't want to be forced to cast ice spells all the time. I get it. Like, I realize, I understand that I can't just only cast fire spells 100% of the time, but I can't even like lean towards fire spells. I have to include ice spells in my regular rotation for every fight, every dungeon, every mob that we ever come across, if I want to even remotely get up on the DPS.
Now, do you consider that more of a skills issue or a class issue?
I'm lumping it in with skills for me. Yeah.
Cool.
Here's the funny thing, right? Like, they early on with Pantheon, they started modeling the wizard pretty closely to how the Black Mage had operated in Final Fantasy. Like, you had to balance your stacks between the ice, the fire, and the arcane. But they did away with that because people didn't like the stacks.
They didn't like. Yeah, I don't know
Not
how
completely done away with. I think it's just been like watered down a little bit.
Yeah, and it's moving around. I don't think they've settled on what they want the wizard to do totally yet, because they just got rid of crit. So everything's up in the air at this point. I think.
I mean, you guys should have heard Drac the other day when we were playing Lost Ark. He was like, "I have 2 fire spells."
Oh, dude, I was so pissed. I was like, "I only get 2." Yeah, no, it's for sure. All right, we got to keep this thing moving. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it, so let's keep this one short. But classes and spell skills is actually pretty close. So this is the first time we've kind of grouped it up this way. I think maybe next time we'll combine these groups. So
Can I
Tetsu,
just touch on one thing?
we're gonna go through.
Just
Just keep it kind of short. So Tetsu, go on classes and my class specifically.
Okay, so are we gonna do my class that I played during this round, or what I was normally played?
You can do whatever you consider to be your class.
Oh, so I consider my class to be the white mage. Like, that's what I played ARR. That's what I spent my hundreds upon hundreds of hours in Final Fantasy. So I'm like a white mage through and through in 14. And the white mage was a ton of fun because though I do believe in class identity, and I feel like I'm cheating a little bit, I love doing damage as a white mage. I love stance swapping when they had a cleric stance and they didn't have the cleric stance, and I'm sure Crit Fox and Sans remembers when they did Brave Fox hard mode, where you grab all the mobs and then swap and then do holy and explode everything. And so the point is, what I'm trying to say is that they did a really good job at class identity, especially with the classic Final Fantasy costumes, gear, like the artifact armor. Like if you know, and if you've ever seen Final Fantasy, you know that's a white mage, that's a paladin, that's a dragoon. Like it's iconic. It's been since like basically when I was born, 88, I think, or 87 was the first Final Fantasy came
Oh
out.
God.
So,
Oh, I feel old now.
so,
Don't do this.
so,
Oh,
so when me and Final Fantasy were born, um,
Yeah, right.
they had the class identity. So like, I do love that they make sure to keep the theme. Um, the skills have remained since the beginning of Final Fantasy. Um, the skills all have the right names. When you do the quest, I know it's a separate thing, but when you do the quest, they make sure that you're the white mage, or you're the monk, or you're the paladin, or whatever. So they do a good job at making sure you know your class lore wise, I guess, sort of, kind of. And then in terms of playing the class, I know this is kind of spilling into everything else. But I guess you do play your role, whether you're in my class was a healer. I knew I was a healer because if I didn't keep your lineup, you die. So I mean, because I know there's other MMOs that, like, I think Guild Wars, where you kind of did whatever, or a lot of other MMOs you're just whatever. So I'm gonna give them an A on that, whether it was lore wise or role wise or anything wise, really. They did an amazing job at knowing that you are who you are, um, and you performed it that way. So I'll give it an A.
Crip Fox.
Yeah, I played Ninja. I've mained Ninja for 3 raid uh, lines. I also mained Black Mage for 1 raid line. I mained Summoner for another raid line. I mained Dark Knight for another raid line. So I have, pretty diverse experience, and I will say that playing the different roles in the same content will give you different perspective and a really good holistic knowledge. But speaking specifically on Ninja, very fun, complex enough to give you a skill challenge because you have to memorize the different mudra or hand gesture combinations to execute different spells like the lightning strike, the ground circle, dot AOE, the group buffs, things like that. Um, I give Ninja an A. Ninja is absolutely outstanding to play, fun to play. Um, for other classes, I'll say get the time on the content at the appropriate item level, and the fights will slow down and kind of force you to think about your skills critically. Uh, you know, like Drac, you have a debuff on Black Mage, and you're like, well, it's like a 90-second
That goes to
cooldown.
the
How am
end
I supposed
of
to use
the
that?
spell list.
Yeah, yeah,
Debuffs. No.
Hard
so
pass.
yeah. And so like going into those fights where you're right at the minimum level that your group is needed for those raids, you have to think about every single spell that you have. And when you see like big abilities pop up, that ability that is at the end of your spell list, right, you might be like, oh, this will debuff their damage by 10%. So when I see, this really big tank buster pop up, I could debuff them and save the tank or something like that. So going in at that minimum level will enhance your experience of these classes, I think.
Yeah, and
Hey,
and maybe we should have done that. Maybe we should have tried like a minimum level dungeon. Maybe that would have sparked it a little more for me.
we could
Limited
play
time.
one night coming up.
Yeah,
Do a one nighter on that first fight that we did. So
there you go. See what it's like. All right, go Stance.
All right, so
Oh wait, you gave. Oh yeah, you gave it a A. Perfect.
A.
Yep, Stance.
So this is going to be another one where I play a lot of classes, and I'm going to be really critical of this because this is one of my biggest MMO points is classes, how they play, how they balance, how it feels going from one to one, because I'm a degenerate altaholic as well. So Final Fantasy absolutely feeds into that, but it also means I get to play. Yep, Crip, you know. It means I get to play a lot of different roles and different classes and go through some content doing them. In Final Fantasy, class identity, especially if you're doing your class quest and like actually interacting with the NPCs and how they talk to you and how they work with you and how you're referred to when you're going through this stuff, is spot on and well done. Like really, you are this thing. And my main is Scholar, basically always has been. And the identity of Scholar in Final Fantasy, is really, they do a good job of like, you are this weird lore obsessed book nerd, and all of your stuff, all of your abilities are tied into the quest you're on to unearth new knowledge and work with your fairy companion. So the design and integration of your class abilities versus what the class is presented at, if I was just grading Scholar, I would give it a high B. Only that low because we are the healing class that gets royally screwed over by every other healer change. Scholar is literally the one healer class that if you see two scholars in a full party in an 8-man, you facepalm because we actively get worse with two of us in a group. Only healer class that's designed that way. And that's why overall, I got to give classes a C, because there are so many bad or just misleading traps out there, especially for newer players. When you're creating a character and you're looking at the character screen, you're going over, what do I want to be? What do these classes do? You're looking at Marauder, big old dude with the two-handed axe. How many of us have gotten bad tanks in Sestacia or Copperbell Mines or anything else because the person who chose the axe class had no friggin' idea that their job was to tank with that big old two-handed axe.
Let me piggyback on you as soon as you're done.
So yeah, overall, I give it a C. I like my class, but I think they have some issues to sort out. And please stop our shields from overriding each other's shields.
I think just piggybacking on what Stans is saying, when you talk the classes of Final Fantasy, they all have an identity to them. And you know this when you get into those hard dungeons or those hard raids, and the tank is saying, hey, at this point in the fight, we need a sucker. And a sucker for the Scholar is the AoE heal that also applies a damage shield.
Yeah, every class has their own unique ways of dealing with different mechanics or challenges. So there is definitely that. All three of the healing classes I play feel very distinct from one another. But we do have to keep moving. So.
Perfect. Derek.
Okay, well, I'll keep it short. I'll keep it short and sweet because I was started off playing this class, my archer, my beloved archer, got turned into a bard, was not happy about it. I was disgusted. I was ready to say, nope, this is not going to work. But my journey continued, and I have to say, it's a good class. It's a good
And
class.
you got nice boots.
Yeah, the nice boots is part of it. Yes, but they're honestly, like I was actually won over by this class. We had a really good discussion one night when we were playing, and I think the question was like put to me about having a bow and no melee weapon. They're like, well, what's more important, being a ranger, if you only had melee weapons, or would you be a bard if the ranger had no bow and you could only have a bow as a bard? And I was like, yeah, that's a great question, because what's more important? Is it the class or is it the weapon? And it's a really tough question to answer, but I have to say that they've done a good job, I think, with the bard in this game. The skill ceiling is very high. I feel like there's a lot of intricacy to the class. I think the mobility of the class is good. I love being the person who buffs people's run speed between fights, even though if it's like 3 seconds between us, one fight to the next, I don't care, whatever. If I get that Peloton off, I feel good about myself. I enjoyed it the more I played it, out of even with the other two classes I tried. I like the role of DPS. That never changed. So I'm gonna give the Bard an A. An A minus. We'll go with that just because it should be, I don't, and the changeover is hard, but I know again you guys explained why they did that because of the evolution of the game, and I'll give them some leeway for that. But yeah, it's a good class. I enjoyed the Bard. I had fun with it.
You got to go back and get that bard bow that turns into a harp.
Yeah. Wow.
Somehow he missed that. I don't know how he missed it.
I have that, and I never use it in my glamours because it looks so silly.
And
I kind of want it.
And they have a quest line where you can upgrade it, and it turns into a glowy, and you could use it as a skin over your new weapon, so you can always have it.
Oh Lord, I don't know, man. Maybe if I do go back, I'll put it on Twitter or something.
All right, Final Fantasy. I'm just bracing you for what's about to come next, which is Sparrow.
Well, as you said, it goes pretty much hand in hand. I'm a caster, so it goes with the spells. So same rant, take two. Before the expansion came out, I felt super confident with my class. I went out, I did any quests I wanted, I joined pugs, I was in the dungeons, no problem. After the expansion, I had zero confidence because when I first came back, I went to a training dummy, tried to figure out this new stuff I had, thought I had it down, went out, I had to do, I think it was my level 50 class quest, and I died over and over and over. I think it was 7 times. Maybe 9. I remember going, Stans, I'm dead again. I'm dead again. And it was so frustrating that I just lost all joy in the class. I didn't want to log in. And then we started doing the ratings and stuff. And I just felt so unimpactful. I just was going through this really bland rotation to me. I think for me to enjoy Final Fantasy, I would have to make a completely new class, maybe a bard.
Yeah, come to the Bard. You just wear the nice boots if you do.
I went from a class that I love to a class that I don't want to touch again.
Dude, that's
might I suggest Dancer? Join the Dancer Master Race.
It's so crazy to me that they changed that class right in the middle of as we were playing it. That's
horrible.
So funny.
Yeah,
so Summoner gets screwed every new large content drop. They've changed the class like half a dozen times completely.
It really emphasizes how important your class is. Like, it's just, that's the effect it has. It's crazy.
Yeah. So it went the same before. I would have given it like a B+, maybe even an A. I really enjoyed it before. To the Flaming F.
Is the Flaming F the triple F minus? Is that what you're calling the triple F minus?
Sure.
Yeah, let's go.
Set that baby on fire and we're good.
Flaming
Click the Vic.
All right. All right, for me, I like for my own personal class, I loved the Black Mage. I thought it's an iconic Final Fantasy character. I played Final Fantasy 1. I'm the guy that ran Warrior, White Mage, and then 2 Black Mages. That's how I ran Final Fantasy 1. So I just love the Black Mage through and through. I thought they did it well. I thought it was a good representation of what a wizard or / Black Mage should be. And so I'm going to give it an A. But with the caveat of, for the MMO itself, I really hate the idea of jobs. I just really hate it. Like, because it crushes your replayability of the game, right? And I think for every new job or class that you have, you should have a new character, and it should have a different look, and it should be a different thing. And if I log in to play my Black Mage, then I shouldn't be able to switch to a healer. I don't like that style of MMOs. I know I may be on an island on this thing. I may be the only one. Maybe everybody else likes being able to switch to stuff, but I think one class, one character. If you want to play a different class, you got to level a different character. That's just me, myself, and I. And maybe I'm get off my lawn guy at this point. I don't know, but
I don't think so. I don't think so. I hear what you're saying. I know what you're saying, and I'm part of me agrees with you for sure. A little bit of convenience in the way that this game does it, but it's not worth it. I don't think.
Right.
But you try pulling off triple flares. On the Black Mage.
Yeah, but for myself, the Black Mage, and because I'm never gonna like level another job, but for myself, the Black Mage was great. So like it's fine for me. So I just play my Black Mage and along I go. So I give it an A. So now we're up to sound and graphics. Moving along. Tetsu, sound and graphics.
Okay. So I'll actually gonna give. Can I give my score first?
Yeah, absolutely.
A plus.
Woo-hoo.
I love it. I am a weeb through and through. I love all things Japanese. I absolutely love it, and so I've been like, uh, I love Nobuo Uematsu. He's been doing most of the mainline Final Fantasy music since forever. Like I just love all his compositions. And then the guy who took over for 14, I think his name is Masayoshi Soken. So he did a great job with the music. It's all super epic in my mind. So like the music is amazing from the dungeons to the town music. To the battles. Like I can't think of a time that I've ever been like, please just shut off the music, or it's just always amazing all the time. And then when it comes to the aesthetic, like I said, it's not super Eastern where it's like I don't like fan service. I personally am not I'm not a fan of fan service. I don't like it. And this game does it borders on it, and sometimes I'm like, I don't really like it, but it's on the safe side of it. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. But um it still stays on the safe side because I remember we were talking before the stream. There's like the Western, then the Eastern Korean anime, and then Final Fantasy, though it's made in the East or Japan, it still knows its audience is worldwide. So it's kind of you know thread the line there. So I love it. It's not too far anime, even though I love anime. Um, it's just beautiful, the aesthetic. And then when it comes to graphics, more lights. I want seizures. Give me them. Give me the lights. I want more. So it's great. Um, and then they've got like Eastern, like they have the Stormblood expansion. Like I picked the samurai immediately, and I didn't care what it did. It could be a healer samurai. I don't care. You stab people and heal them. Cool. I don't
Stab
care.
you for
Just
health.
let me be a samurai. I don't care. So I did like a transmog or whatever, glamour of like a samurai looking dude, and I would just RP walk around the world. I did that for 1 week and then just quit Final Fantasy. I didn't care. I didn't like it, honestly. I didn't like the game anymore, but I just wanted to RP a samurai, and I did that, and then I left. And that was it. But yeah, A plus. The music is amazing. It's epic. Aesthetic is right up my alley. Not too Eastern. I don't like fan service. There is some for people who want it, fine, but it stays just on the limit. Um, Borderline anime. It's anime-ish. I like it, and it's Final Fantasy, which I grew up on since like it was my first RPG when I was a kid. So yeah, love it all. A plus.
Fox.
For me, I love all of the sounds and all of the graphics. A plus, except for the redheaded stepchild that is the Alliance raids. I can't stand seeing like all of the graphics popping off, but I don't do Alliance raids longer than I have to for gear. Uh, but yes, love all the graphics. Otherwise, the sound, I know you guys probably didn't experience it, but the sound, like post ARR, like once you get to Leviathan, the Leviathan fight, you're on a boat and the music is scored by an orchestra, and the sound of the fight is mixed in surround sound. So in the fight, you hear a spout of water behind you and to the right. You know you need to move to the left because Leviathan's about to cross over the boat. And if you're still standing there, you get knocked off into the water and you're dead. So you have those spouts popping up in the fight. So you have to listen for which way is coming from. And if you got two speakers sitting on your desk, you're not going to know which way it's coming from. So you kind of have to have headphones for that fight so you could hear like where it's coming from. So like the dynamic of just sound is so good in this game, and I really want you guys to experience that someday.
Dance.
A
Oh, I'm sorry, Grade.
Oh, A+ overall.
Perfect. Stance?
So I'm just going to hit 2 points, one on sound and one on graphics. On graphics, one thing that I love that the game does is graphical effects, whether it's an enemy doing something, a spell going off, things happening in the environment, almost without fail, you can see what's going on just by watching what's happening and what the screen is giving you. You rarely need to go, oh, let me look for a text warning or something like this. Looking at what's going on, what's on screen is telling you what you need to know, and I think that is really, really cool graphic design. Again, bringing in some of the UI UX nerd here. So much information is presented in a meaningful, digestible way if you are paying attention and parsing it out. My knock is actually in the sound category. The music is amazing. The sound effects are amazing. I love all of it. It's one of the few games I don't turn off most of the sounds, but all of it is more or less living in the upper mid-range and beyond. There is so little low end to the sound in the game. Nothing has a thump or an impact. I play with a subwoofer basically below my desk. It's not like I listen to it loud or anything, but that just happens to be right where it is. So most of the time, my foot is literally resting on the subwoofer. So I know when there's any low end content in the sound at all, because I feel a little bit of a rumble.
Do
You
get
see
any of that
stands
on-
in the middle of the fight just go like this, you know what's going on.
No, this thing never kicks on in Final Fantasy.
You never get any
Period.
of that in like the Titan fight or Ifrit when they're doing the plumes or the ground slams or anything like that.
Occasionally there's the tiniest little thing, and primarily it's like, hey, there's a ground effect, there's a little bit of a rumble, but basically the entirety of the sound in this game lives in like 1K and up, and it's a sound nerd thing, but I'm gonna knock him for it. It's not balanced, so my overall is a B.
That's fair enough. I
Nice.
remember hearing the horse footsteps in WoW, and that was so cool. Just just walking in WoW. So yeah, no, that makes sense. I'll give you that.
Derek?
Yeah, I'll say the music is awesome in this game. I was always impressed by it. It almost has a reminiscent of the 16-bit era to it. There's some like motifs that are very almost MIDI music sounding, and I love it. I love that type of music. So it gets repetitive. They reuse the same sort of mood music over and over again. I want to give a shout out to the voice acting in this game. It is really, really good. Even though you sit through so much of it, eventually, you're going to get, a feel for it. But I don't know who does the voice for Y'shtola, but she is awesome. Like her lines and her dialogue is really good.
Post ARR Stola is good.
Yeah.
I think Y'shtola is one of the people from Critical Role.
Yeah, it's a famous actress. I know. I could tell the voice. I'd heard it before. Like I was thinking like Mass Effect or something, but I don't think it's that. But it was definitely familiar. In terms of the graphics, it's funny because they look good from a distance, but the closer you get, they look really terrible. Like to me, like you just get up close, and I understand. Things were when they redid the game, they brought things down to a level to make it playable or whatever, and the graphics took a big hit in that area. But sometimes I was impressed, but other times I was like, meh. And some of the outdoor areas are very washed out, I found, at least maybe in the beginning, maybe not so much in the later stages or later on in the expansions. But yeah, overall, the graphics were acceptable and fine. They didn't detract from the game. The sound was much better than the graphics, I thought. I'll give it a B+.
Sparrow?
So I enjoyed the sound for all the reasons I said. It was a unique and enjoyable. It wasn't offensive in any way. Some of the sounds of the game got kind of repetitive and annoying. Like I had to shut off the chocobo riding music. That was horrible.
That was good
So I turned
advice.
that off. Yeah, exactly.
You leave that fat chocobo music on though.
Yeah. Well, I turned my writing one off. But graphically, it's very interesting. It's not the style that I enjoy. I'm not into bunny ears and lingerie for my character, and I don't really like seeing it running around everywhere because it seems, it'd be fine if it was like every once in a while, but it's everywhere and it's just not my preference. And I feel the Final Fantasy 14's just really overdone with it, with the chicken suits and the cutesy graphics. And I'm happy for the folks that really like it because they've obviously found a home here. So even though I don't enjoy it, I'm actually giving it an A because they unashamedly embrace their identity. They are who they are. They make the game for that, and they do a good job at it. So I'll give it an A.
A good point.
Nice. Well, I learned a new word by doing Final Fantasy 14. Tetsu has taught me this word, which is weeb.
You Googled it, didn't you?
I did. I know.
Welcome.
No. Nathan and Tetsu explained it to me, but I have also come to discover that I am an anti-weeb. I am the opposite of weeb. So I remember. This was 2 or 3 years ago when Minus was stirring everybody up in the Pantheon community with his transmog conversations, right? And what did he always say? He's always like, "Well, it's not like there's a bunch of bunny costumes running around with lingerie." And I'm like, and we played this game, and I'm like, dude, there's bunny costumes with lingerie everywhere.
Everywhere.
Like every third person has a full bunny costume with lingerie. Like, it's ridiculous. But that being said, like, I get that this is a style. This is an Eastern MMO style. This is like a genre almost, right? And people love this stuff. It's just not my deal. And the music, of course, is iconic, right? The music has notes from games I played 20 years ago, right? And so it's epic in scale. And so overall, I'm giving it an A-, only because I am the anti-weeb. So
Called the nerd.
no, I'm definitely a nerd. I'm just not a weeb. So I've come to know the difference.
We need like a versus sign between you and Tetsu, Drag.
I want you guys
nerd versus weeb, round one.
Only one can survive.
Like after we get off here, I want to like go back in and listen to some of the music from the fights, like Titan and Ifrit, and if we got Leviathan unlocked, like the music in those fights, oh freaking cool.
Yeah, the music is definitely, it's top notch stuff. All right, cash shop / monetization. Tetsu, go.
Okay. So I actually had this conversation today with my younger brother regarding cash optimization, and the game that were involved was Lost Ark. We talked about extremes, and there was a video with a popular streamer, and he watched someone from a European region, a Russian streamer or guy, I don't know, video. And the point is that if you were to play Lost Ark and to get everything you ever needed in that game, without spending a penny and 100% max out the game, it would take 17,000 hours to get everything to the exact. It was an insane number, absolutely insane. So that's clearly not possible. That's stupid. And so that was like one extreme. And the other extreme is like just not doing a cash shop, right? Which was like something that you don't really see anymore. And then we started kind of going from. I started talking about one extreme to the other. So you got the 17,000 hour. Don't spend the penny, but you'll never get there. Then you don't have one. And then I went to another MMO, which there were tons of gold. There's tons of gold sellers, and so the company ended up just saying, you know what, buy gold from us. So that's kind of lowering it down. And then we have Final Fantasy, which is we're gonna do just cosmetics, level skips, and character transfers. And though I do not like cash shops, I also live in 2022. And so I think that I do not like cash shops, but Final Fantasy does it in a way that keeps the corporate suits happy. And I feel like maybe Yoshi P keeps them at bay. He's holding them back, and he's like, "Hey, look, let's not alienate our player base, but also players. I need to keep these guys happy." So they have gone as they've done what they need to do. There's a cash shop, there's cosmetics, and basic quality of life purchases available in their digital storefront. So I think they've done as good as a job as you can, keeping the shareholders happy and living in 2022. So with that being said, and also I the cash shop also makes it that, well, I guess you can earn free bunny suits, which I'm not a fan of either. I guess you can get free bunny suits, so I guess that
Oh,
doesn't really
gosh.
count cash shop
You're
or
not
not.
a bunny embracer.
I am, even though I'm a weeb, I am not a bunny embracer. I am a fat chocobo embracer, though. All those guys are chunky and fat. But anyways, um, uh, yeah, I'm gonna give them. I'll give them a C because they've, in my opinion, they've done as good as a job as they can without being egregious with the 17,000 hour max everything out. But also realizing that we are in the day and age that we live in, and they have people that they need to answer to in the back end. And so they've met a middle ground by not selling absurdities, they're just doing quality of life and cosmetics, and it is what it is. So I give it a C.
Good Fox.
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch on one thing that we passed real quick. I'm not going to dwell on it for more than like 10, 15 seconds, but we skipped over uh, a lot of classes, right? We only addressed the Disciple of War and the Disciple of Magic classes.
Don't bring
We-
crafting into this.
we never touched on the Disciple of the Land, Disciple of the Hand, which are the miner, the fisher, the weaver, and the all the crafting and the gatherings, because all of those are classes. They have skills. You need to get gear to perform those skills better. So those classes I feel are really good as well. As far as like cash shop and monetization, it's there if you want it. It's out of the way. It's on a website you can go to, and those items will get imported into the game for you when you get them from there. Uh, and I, I don't want to steal Theric's bullet point, but I remember hearing him talk about it before, saying that he loved it because it was like not even present in the game. And that's
Exactly.
like a very good point.
Yes.
And
there
when
were
the
no pop-ups for Cash Shop as we played. That's a good
Mhm.
point.
It's the number one thing on my list here when we get to my turn.
Yeah, it's on mine too.
Yeah. So I give it an A. Cash out
Nice.
monetization.
Mhm.
Stans.
All right. So probably my biggest negative is the monthly fee if you want extra retainers. And the reason for that is you can pay an extra monthly fee to get more than your 2 free retainers for your banking and your ability to list things on the trading market, which both of those, whatever, it's pay for convenience. But the third thing your retainers do is they go out and they harvest for you. They go out and they find and bring you back stuff. Some of the things they bring back can sell for hundreds of thousands of gil or more. So the more retainers you have out on a constant cycle, you're making yourself in-game gold, period. The more retainers you have, the more gold you are making in-game, period, full stop. So the more money you want to plunk down on that sub per month, you're functionally buying gil, even though it is roundabout and has a couple of intermediary steps.
Sounds like
I'm not
pay to win to me.
I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy about it, but I don't think they expected that the quick venture system was going to be as lucrative as it was a decade after the game's launch. That's just the economy going haywire. On the plus side, I love the fact that they have the base, the starter sub or whatever they call it, that lets you have one character per server as opposed to multiple, and 8 characters total. I think across all the data centers or on one data center. So it's a sub with very few restrictions, but it is dramatically lower priced. It's basically the same price as if you were to get the normal sub at the 6 months at a time discount. So you can pay a very low for a modern MMO monthly sub, and just pay that, and you are good. So my overall is a B.
Derek.
Yeah, it's like Crypt you said, it's like the number one thing for me is no pop-ups, not being bombarded with advertising and crap, in your face when you're trying to play the game and taking you out of it. That's the number one thing. I mean, I think realistically, this is the way that this game does it, for their monetization is probably, um, probably the smartest way you can do it in this day and age. I hate to say that because I'd like a game with absolutely no cash up at all, but it's really overshadowed by the game itself. I mean, I wouldn't even have known it was there if we hadn't talked about it. And what you're saying, Stans, is totally valid. I don't know all the ins and outs of whether it's things that it can be used as a way to give you an advantage, the pay to win thing, but it certainly is something that comes along with any time you implement a cash up of any kind. You have to run that risk. I just think it's a good example for other MMOs to follow. I'm going to stay subbed, even though we might not, we're not playing it for the show. It's reasonable enough price for me to stay subbed, and there's enough there for me to want to go back and maybe know that someday I'll want to, keep playing. So I think it's reasonable, and I approve. So I give it an A.
I'll play with you, Third. Message me.
Yeah, you see me in game all the dang time. So
I might need to level a new job though.
Sparrow.
Do it.
Yeah,
Do it.
Sparrow,
Red Mage.
Sparrow will be leveling her next job.
So I don't mind paying a monthly sub either. I'm happy to do that, especially when I'm actively playing a game. I like to support the game and support it with a sub. I was happy to be able to pay for the ARR quests, especially when games get older. There's a lot of bloat, a lot of quest bloat, things you don't really need to do, or there isn't the groups to do it anymore. So I was happy that was available. I paid for it, and it was worth it. If there was I didn't notice, like the other guy said, there was no pressure to be buying cash up items or mounts or pop-ups or anything. So I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the sub, and I'm giving it an A.
Or daily login bonuses.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
they're
No.
annoying.
Please.
None of that.
Please.
Mhm.
Pantheon, we're looking at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I like the idea of a box price and then a sub. That's my favorite model for an MMO. And I know it's old fashioned. I know it's not in vogue, but it's Final Fantasy's sticking to it, and so that's their main source. I mean, they have cash out, but it's not overwhelming. It's not it's not Lotro. It's not like you log in and you're like, no, close the window, close the window, close the window. Like you're not.
there's a button for that,
dude.
Yeah, there's a button,
dude, and you're just like, ugh. It's not obnoxious, and even though other people are running around in whatever skins, it doesn't bother me. I don't care. Everybody else can look how they want. I'm going with the stuff I get. So that's all fine for me. So I give it an A. I think it's making a stand for the type of monetization that I want to see in MMOs. So I appreciate that. All right. The Rangers' favorite category, lore. Let's get to Tetsu.
All right, lore, another A+ from me. It's Final Fantasy. Again, that series that I grew up with, my favorite series. It's got all the classic stuff. I just love seeing a Chocobo. I love seeing Sid. I love seeing Biggs and Wedge in there. I love seeing all these icon. I love Shiva, Ifrit, all these characters that I grew up with. I know all of them. I know all the iterations of them. To see them reiterated, I see Diablo. I see Alexander. I see Cobalt. I see all these little things. I'm like, oh, that's a cool version of them. So I think I'm biased on it because I grew up with it. So this is like, the 18th iteration of them. I'm like, cool. It's him again. Cool. So I'm definitely biased on this one, but and then the story, I will say that I won't say an A+. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go with an A. The only reason it's not getting a plus is because ARR's story was a bit generic. That's the only reason it doesn't get an A+. It was kind of generic. whatever, that's fine. But Heaven's Word made up for it. Stormblood, the little bit that I did was cool, and it was very Asian. So there you go, even better. And then I heard that Endwalker and everything else was super cool too. So I hear it only gets better. But from what I experienced, everything was amazing lore wise. So it's getting not an A plus, but an A from me, and I'll leave it at that.
Nice. Cripox?
So I have the benefit of being able to play through the game through Realm Reborn, Heaven's Ward, uh, and now Shadowbringers, and gonna be going into Endwalker. And I'll comment on a few things really quickly. The progression of the story goes from being like reading the first book in a line and getting hooked at some points that keep your attention, but then the subsequent books just build on what was already built but improving upon them, and the characters and the story, the lore, uh like all the fan service that Tessie was talking about, but the unique characters and the unique story of Final Fantasy 14, very good. The Me talking, I forgot the name of them. The It stands. Help me out. What's the name of the group of the Scions? The
The
Scions of
Signs
the
of the
Seventh
Seventh
Dawn.
Dawn.
Yeah. They are Jedi in Final Fantasy. They are the Justice League of Final Fantasy 14. Each one of them, as you play through the story, gets revealed to be a class: ninja, red mage, astrologian, all of those things. Uh, the the lore that comes up in the game as you play through the story is unquestionably, in my mind, uh, one of the best video game cinematic storylines I could probably think of.
Nice.
A plus.
A plus. Boom. Stands.
I'm going to keep mine short and sweet. I am in the later questing portions of Shadowbringers, so I'm coming close to Endwalker, having played through the whole thing without skips. I'm just going to say Warrior of Darkness and give it an A.
Nice. Theric?
Yeah, it's hard to downplay the lore here. It's so good. I mean, this game has so much history. Tetsu, when you said Sid, I was like, yes. I'm like, yes. Even if you haven't played a Final Fantasy game since 1 or 2, since the Nintendo version, you know Sid, right? Like, it's got these threads that are so cool, and this, world building that's been, 30 years in the making is so awesome.
Biggs and Wedge.
Well, yeah, even those guys, like I don't remember them as well as Sid, but for some reason Sid stuck out in my mind. But the parts of the story I enjoyed the most is when it's like this like the greater universe stuff where the crystal and the warrior of light and really just getting into the mythology of it. That's the part I really love. The political maneuvering, the sort of the that stuff, man, not so much, but that's just because of the questing, I think, as well plays into that. Um, the only problem I have with this game's lore is that finding an entry point into it is difficult. If you haven't played any of the other Final Fantasy games, if you just go into this as your first, Final Fantasy as an MMO, like where do you even start? Like how do you know these characters? Where do you get to know them? Like I find that there's a bit of a disconnect there. But again, that's maybe a storytelling aspect rather than the story itself. It's this game loves its story. You can tell it loves its story very, very much, and it is not afraid to tell it the way it wants to tell it. And like I said, the dragons are awesome. Everybody loves dragons. I'm looking forward to, even though I don't like the main story quest mechanics, I'm gonna finish it because I want to know where this story goes and I want to see how things end up. And I like the universe that it's set in, so it gets an A. I don't know how you can't give it an A, at least from my perspective.
Earl?
I didn't get to enjoy a ton of the lore. I only got a bit into Heavensward before Endwalker came out. But I just know from everybody talking about the fantastic storylines from the different expansions that it makes me wish I had gotten to play more of them before the classes became unplayable for me. It definitely felt like there was a whole world and story to discover. So there's a chance I might come back and try a different job and start over and go through the stories because everybody talks so highly about it. So I'm actually going to give it a tentative A, but it's mostly from hearsay. So,
That's fair.
All right, I'm going to be the naysayer here. I'm going to go against the grain.
Says the guy who doesn't even read lore.
Hey,
Take it with a grain of salt.
don't
Folks.
take my points. I am not a lore buff, right? And I am not. Listen, I like lore and I like to have it be involved in my game. But dude, I cannot wade through the walls of text that is Final Fantasy 14. Like, you got to get to the point. And the problem is that the lore was so tied to the questing, which was so monotonous that there was no way I was ever going to wade through all that text. And so I just skipped everything, right? And so I'm sure that the story is fantastic and I'm sure that it was amazing, but I never got to it because I was so just like, I'm not doing this. I'm not reading the text for every stupid fetch quest to get to the lore. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. And so I skipped all of it. I have no idea what's going on at any point except for what Crypt Fox and Stans told me as we were raiding dungeons. So I just can't. You have to taper it back. You have to get your stuff under control. I want to know the story. I want to know the lore, and I'm totally willing to read stuff. But it can't be like the verbal onslaught and attack that was Final Fantasy 14.
And the ARR stuff we were playing through is really bad at that track. You are 100% right. That is the worst period in time of this game for delivery of lore.
It gets better.
As a person who loves it, I cannot in any way fault you for saying that or skipping it.
Right.
It gets better.
Right, and I didn't get. To be fair, I didn't get to the later expansions, and this was my very first time playing it, so I don't really have. I've never made it to the end, so it was just what I experienced, and for me, it was brutal. So I wanted to know the lore because I like Final Fantasy, but I can't do it. So,
and I think that's why Tetsu separated the lore from the quests because
Right.
he completely agreed with you that the quests were very fetchy and run and talk.
yeah,
And then the lore of the actual stories is a whole other thing. That's
but I couldn't get to the lore because I was like,
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't read
It's
all
too
this stuff.
integrated. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, Drac. I get it, man.
So that's fine. So it gets a D from me. Boom. And we move on to Addictability. This is one of my favorites. Tetsu.
I feel like I'm gonna get crap for this one, but my addictability is gonna be a D on this one. I'm explaining myself. There are a lot of things to get addicted about in this game. There's literally a casino. So I mean the addictability there. There's literally a golden casino.
Oh yeah.
So the addictability is there. There's alts up the wazoo. I mean you can make all the classes. So the addictability is there. Here's my reasoning why I can't get addicted to it, which I was for a little bit when I was pony farming, but then the game crushed my addictability, was when I realized everything was for naught in a couple months when the next patch comes out or the next expansion comes out. And that's not a Final Fantasy thing. That's a modern MMO thing. So addictability, I have to give it a D. The reason why I give it a D because I was addicted for a little bit back when, because Final Fantasy 14 was my last hurrah in the MMO space. That was the last thing before Pantheon kind of sparked it again in like 2016 or 17. I've been waiting for it, but I was looking for that addiction where I was at work and I wanted to just leave and quit and steal someone's electricity and Wi-Fi and live in a box and play games all day long. That's what I want to do.
the dream.
But
The dream is right.
but I haven't wanted to do that. I did for a little bit 14, and I remember specifically pony farming and beating my head against those raids. Kind of like what Kripov was saying, was just doing it again and again and again for months at a time, and I was addicted for a while, but then after like it all became for naught, I was just like, I just don't care anymore. And again, it's not so much 14, but just a modern day MMO thing. So addictability, it's possible, but I'm jaded and grumpy, so I give it a D.
Jaded and Grumpy D. That's awesome. Goodbye.
Yeah, there are tons and tons and tons of things to do. If you like fishing, you have a job that you can dedicate your time and just be a fisher. If you like crafting, you have all of the crafting that you can do, and you can corner the market by making high quality items. Uh, you like mini games? This game has lots and lots of mini games, and they have mini games that are mobile too, so you can go to the golden saucer, learn the triple triad, go out into the world and challenge people to card games. So uh the the rating is intriguing and fun, challenging. uh, uh as far as addictability goes, you get to a certain point when you've completed all of the current content, and you don't want to go back and do some of the menial kind of quests, like the fetch quests and things like that, for little to no benefit. So you beat the raids, and then at that point you're just waiting for the next patch to happen, which happens every 3 months. They inject new story quests, new cutscenes, new voice acting, new fights, new dungeons. You get to the point where you are caught up and you're waiting for that next stuff. So until you get to that point, the addictability is A plus. There's so much for you to do, but once you are current on everything, the addictability goes down severely. So I'm gonna give it a flat B.
All right, Stans.
This is going to be my sole A plus of the ratings, and it's solely because like Tetsu and Crypt, I totally, you know, I know where you're coming from, but my juice in MMOs is rarely, you know, playing the gear treadmill and, you know, okay, what's the next content? What's the next content? And Final Fantasy 14 has this much content that, you know, okay, this is our next slice of rating content. This is our next, you know, expansion and dungeons and what have you. And it's got this much content that's everything outside of combat. And it just has so many slices where, all right, cool. I'm going to spend 2 weeks just going and looking through achievements and trying to get as many minions as I can, or whatever it is that you want to do outside of combat. It's such a broad net that even when I don't want to log in and do, you know, combat or whatever else, I'm like, oh man, I don't want to do this main story quest because, you know, I don't want to progress it further because it's this dungeon that I just do not want to do, beating my head against it, tired of it. I'm gonna go hang out in Limsa Lominsa and see who's shooting the breeze around the Aetheryte crystal and what silliness is up in the novice network. And let's see what my retainers are up to. So giving it an A plus for just the sheer breadth of what's there.
Nice. Dirk.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. There's so much in this game in terms of for people to complete their tasks and checklists of things. I mean, it's got a super high addictive, you know, quality I think built into it. I think for me it didn't really land on me because I haven't been invested in this game for a long time, and I don't think it's something that is gonna get its hooks into me like that. But it's definitely there, and I can get that. You know, people want to finish their collections. People want to obtain, you know, certain achievements and that kind of stuff. So it's a bit of a collector's haven, I guess, if you like that kind of thing. And I do generally, but just maybe not in this game. So, you know, I'm sort of neutral on it. I'm going to give it a B, I guess.
All right, Sparrow.
Pre-Endwalker, I wanted to log in pretty much every day. I wanted to explore, level, quest. I was doing different crafting jobs. I was doing the gathering jobs. I think I had 2 or 3 of each. I was enjoying all the different systems that they had, but unfortunately, after the expansion, it was just a drudgery to log in. So kind of like Tetsu said, the game just kind of killed it with the expansion. So pre-Endwalker would get an A. I was in pretty much every day, but afterwards it's obviously an F.
Internally, Sparrow's like, ¿Por qué?
Well, that speaks to like all MMOs, right? You need to design your classes and you need to have the scope set from the beginning. And if you wreck a class in an expansion, it's not gonna be like this small deal that people just get over. It's gonna wreck the game for them if you hose
Well,
their class.
The thing is, overall, the general populace is really positive on the new summoner. It's just us weirdos who like the old summoner. And sorry,
And
because
that's
I'm
fair.
squarely in that camp with Sparrow.
Right, but it's fine. And that would have been fine if that would have been the design from the beginning. But they
Right.
didn't know where they were going, and they didn't have a plan. And so, like, there's these people that are left in the lurch of like, oh, I like that. And so, yeah, you can't changing, classing up, and balancing and tweaking things. It's fine, but I think, dude, if you're 3 or 4 or 5 expansions in, you shouldn't be changing like the entire direction of a class. That's
The core
That's
of it.
crazy.
that's
Every
brutal.
expansion.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
For me, Addictability, I like, and maybe I'm just a different cat, but I don't rank Addictability on things to do, right? I rank Addictability on, I hit my computer, I got an hour of free time. Am I like jonesing to get in this game? Can you like not stop me? Is my wife like, have you come to bed yet? Like it's 2:30 in the morning, and I just did not have that for this game. I don't know what it is, but like I think the linearness of it, like, because I'm a guy that can grind, and I can grind the same things over and over and over again. I've grinded the same EQ dungeons for 20 years, and I never tire of it. But the experience of an EQ dungeon is different every time I run it, because there's different people and we attack things in different ways. We go different routes and different things happen. But I felt like, because I ran the same dungeons like 10, 15 times, and it was the exact same experience every single time. And so for me, that makes the addictability of the game, it's not as high for me. So I'm going to give it a D on addictability. So last one before we give our final grade. Fun. Tetsu.
I think the game is fun. I always recommend it to people. I think it is it's a fun game. Keyword on, of course, everything. Well, not everything is a game, but video games are all games. But it is a fun game. It is truly a game. And referring back to what Joppa said, where you feel like most modern MMOs are plastic or arcadey, and then I'm trying to say that in an insulting way, and I don't think he was either. It's just saying the feel of something. Um, it truly is a fun game. And where you throw in those quarters and you keep putting in the quarters. It is truly fun. So from when you first land in there, especially from the casino, the Golden Saucer, the casino in there, that's super fun. Mario Kart Chocobo Racing, or jumping challenges, or triple triad to raids. When you do enjoy that, and it was especially fun when I won first place. Just want to mention that there in the last race.
There is a
So,
video short of that out there. Is what I heard.
But it is fun from the roulettes, and from raids if you like that, or the dungeons the first time around. I think those kind of get boring, but there's just so much stuff to do. It's generally just fun. If you just throw someone in there, they'll find something fun to do. So it is a fun game, and I give it a B+.
Nice. Cryptfox.
Everything he said, plus more.
Give us the plus.
The plus more is just the sheer variety of things you have to do. Like you can log into the game, and you're not gonna be missing anything that you could be doing, right? Like I know I said in my last comment that if you're caught up on everything, you're waiting for the next patch. that's if you're focused on progression. But there is no shortage of things to do. You can be working on Disciple Land, Disciple Hand. You could be running around playing Triple Triad with all the NPCs, trying to beat them and collecting the cards to expand your Triple Triad cards. Or you could be doing chocobo races with your friends. You know, you could do all kinds of stuff. The game is not short on fun. So I give it an A.
Nice. Stans?
Yeah, I'm basically going to echo the same major points that Tetsu and Crypt made. I take frequent breaks from Final Fantasy XIV mainly because I am a degenerate game hopper. But every time I come back, it's like, yeah, cool. I've got this to do. I've got this to do. I have a blast when I, go hard on it for 3-4 months at a time or what have you, chew through content, and it gets sticky. And the community the community helps make it fun every time you log in, because you go to any one of the major cities and region chat, novice network chat, whatever, there's people hanging out just shooting the breeze without being that obnoxious MMO community. Like, chat gets weird, people get weird, but it doesn't get Baron's chat weird. So my fun is an A.
Nice. Derek?
Yeah, you know what? The more I discovered about this game, the more I learned how much there was to learn, the more fun I had. I have fun when I'm discovering new things and learning new things, and I found that this game is very much more deep than I thought it was. So in terms of the skills, mechanics, just the nature of it, and everybody else has said, many things to do. I like discovering that kind of stuff, even if it's done poorly or mediocre or some of it good. It doesn't matter as long as there's stuff like that to figure out. I kind of get into it. I had fun when we were playing it. I can't deny that we had fun, and I think our streams show that we're having fun when we play it. So, I have nothing against this game. I had some enjoyment getting out of it, so I'm going to give it a B+.
Sparrow?
Yeah, there's a lot of different things to explore. The dungeons, the questing, the golden saucer. The chocobo races were a hoot. They were just really fun. There's that competitive thing and trying to get your person next to you with snares and things. It was really fun. I liked it. And I liked that they had a place where people could go to hang out at the golden saucer and do these games. That whole taverny idea, but it was more like a casino. But I'd love to see that in like Pantheon, where there's actually a place to go to do these mini game type of games with their own flavor, of course, not chocobos. But
We need to all be on the same server so we could be there at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
For fun, I think about how many screenshots we shared and just saying, "Oh my goodness, we look at this costume," or whatever, and we just had a good time laughing at the silliness of the mounts or whatever. And it gives the game this lighthearted feel and this imagination wide open feel. I would definitely recommend this game to a friend. I just would not recommend the summoner. So if I took my class and what happened with that out of the equation, for fun, I would definitely give it an A. But because what did happen with the class and having to start over, probably, I'd be generous giving it a C. So I think I'm going to stick with that whole generous thing, split the difference, and go with a B.
Nice. For me, I think, dude, I had fun. But I think it was limited to us, right? Like, when I was playing by myself, I was not having fun. And honestly, I was just doing it because I wanted to keep up with the group. We wanted to keep progressing. But I needed friends in the game. And so I don't feel like I made 0 friends playing this game. I mean, some of it is that we already kind of come with a pre-made group, but some of it, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I had fun. And as
I'll give you points to anybody who remembers the name of the puggers we picked up for our raid.
Right? There's no way.
Nobody's gonna remember those names.
No way.
One of them was the Dragoon.
Not the class. Not the class. That's
their
cheating.
name. You have to remember their name.
Yeah, there's no way.
Wonder Bunny.
Count what's his name? Count Cruncula.
Alpha?
Oh yeah,
Because
Yeah.
I have
that-
run into that dude in at least 3 more pugs, and we shoot the crap every time.
That's
Oh
good.
my
Chat-
God.
Oh my goodness, that's
Well,
Yeah.
awesome.
that brings up a good point, though, right? Like, if we're not making friends, just
We-
playing a game, are we really making an effort to make friends?
It really depends on if you're actually engaging in the systems that are there. And the past few days, I've actually been spending more time hanging out in Limsa or one of the cities, talking in novice network chat, and catching up with the people who are there as regulars. And it's actually easy to get a regular group of people that you recognize and chat with there. You just have to actually interact with people in a way that, if we're coming from games that a lot of us have played, we might not be used to. This is how I find people.
I just have to point this out. Doom Turkey says in
Yeah,
chat,
Doom Turkey.
I was in one of your pugs and I consider you to be my friends now. I have no idea. Oh,
that's
no, he
crazy.
just ruined
Doom
it.
Turkey reneged.
Oh.
He says, just kidding. But
Oh, he's just
well,
messing
then-
with us. I'm like, oh, I felt
well,
bad. I'm
then
like, Doom
Doom-
Turkey.
then we need to get you into the game, and we need to run something, man.
My God,
All
that's
right, he
funny.
faked us out. That was worth 15 points right there, Doom Turkey.
I
you
do
would-
want to point out a very weird thing happened to me. I played StarCraft for 10 years, and I played in matchmaking one time a guy called Milkbag. And then, actually, I was in a guild with a guy called Milkbag in Final Fantasy on my server back when you couldn't do cross server. And then I played StarCraft in random matchmaking, and I played against him, and I chatted. I'm like, do you play Final Fantasy on this server? And he said yes. I'm like, what are the chances that you're on my same Final Fantasy server and we played in random matchmaking in StarCraft? He's like, I met the Milkbag in the same game. I'm like,
That's
that's
awesome.
crazy. That's just random, but yeah.
Well, here's the thing about like making friends and communication. Like when we played EverQuest, EQOA, those other games, we were in a different era. There wasn't Discord.
Right.
There wasn't websites where you can communicate and do things for. It wasn't until like the tail end of that generation of games where you started doing that stuff.
For sure. But I'm going to put an ending on this. I still have to give a grade. I'm going to give it a C+. I had fun, but it was only in kind of the context of our group. So, final GPA, we have got to move this along. Theric's going to turn into a pumpkin. So, just short thoughts and final GPA, Tetsu.
Okay, so I did the math. I took all my scores and I divided it through the different categories. So it came out to be it was 3.88. So it would be a B minus. So it gets a B minus from me, which is exactly where I kind of I would say like it was around B, but mathematically it's a B minus. So hey, there you go.
Gripbox.
Nice.
I didn't write scores down. Didn't know I had to, but I'm doing the math in my head. I'm gonna give it A minus.
Nice. Stans.
Weighting everything, I'm going to give it a solid B to a B plus. Like it's fun despite the things that annoy me over time. I keep coming back.
Nice. Theric.
If it wasn't for the questing, it would be a solid B. I would definitely go B, but that questing drags it down, man. That triple F minus there. Can't do it. Gotta go C plus. Sorry, game. Fix your questing.
Sparrow.
Yeah, unfortunately, mine's going from like a B plus. I gotta give it a C. I mean, they wrecked the game for me, so yeah, I can't go higher than a C.
All right, MMOs, like you better get your act together. You better not touch Sparrow's class. She's gonna drag
No.
you into the gutter.
Yeah, if I went through all the work to figure out this class and I feel good about it and I'm liking it, don't mess with it. Make another
Yeah.
class. It needs
Give
more
me that
pet
VR.
classes anyway. Needs more pet classes anyway. It only has that one as far as I know. So
Nice. I'm going
leave it
to
alone.
I'm going to give it a C plus as well. I kind of live in the land of Theric. The questing and also the jobs and the ability to have more than one class on a character. It just kind of wrecks it for me, and I do have fun with it, and it's a fun game. But Overall, it's just not my cup of tea, but still super solid, and I really like the monetization. So C+ for me. And that will end our Final Fantasy adventure. I'm very excited.
Yay.
So next week we move on to something new. So Cryptfox, would you like to promo our next week's game?
Yeah. Next Tuesday night, I believe I'll be hosting it.
Yes.
Next
Yep.
week. Yeah, I'll be hosting the 101 on my channel. There's a link to it in the chat, along with Sparrow's. Sparrow just got into the content creation here on Twitch, so stop on by. We're going to be stepping into Lost Ark. Lost Ark is an Eastern style game, so shaping the expectation there a little bit. There's going to be a number of menus to get acquainted with, different currencies to manage over time, a lot of collectibles to acquire over time, uh, in depth skill upgrading, gear upgrading that I haven't figured out yet. So I'll go through that with everyone here. We're all going to be starting out at the same point. So we'll get through the prologue off stream, and then we'll be grouping up for the first time together on stream and venturing forth as different classes. I think I'm going to be breaking away from uh, the melee classes that I've been playing because I've been kicking a whole lot of butt on Scrapper. And I killed Drac, I killed Redbeard, I killed our buddy Wizen. I'm just
This is when
leaving.
Drac mysteriously cuts the stream short.
Oh, there
Everybody.
may be a short coming out on YouTube a little later this week of me getting my butt kicked in Arc PvP. So,
But I think what I'm gonna do next Tuesday is I'm gonna be playing a bard.
nice.
Oh.
All right, so yeah,
Sing and
that's
dance with us.
going to be the next official MMO we're going to review. That'll be next week. I am not going to be there. So like Cryptfox says, it's going to be on his channel. I have a wedding I have to go to that I absolutely cannot get out of. I tried and tried and tried to get out of it. Not just because of the MMO 101, but I just don't like going to weddings. But I cannot get out of it. So I have to go. So next week I will not be here. But you should for sure join Cryptfox on his channel. And what else we got going on? Theric, Cryptfox, what else? Or let's start with Cryptfox. Do you got anything else going on this week?
Yeah. This week, I have been taking a little bit of hiatus just to get some personal affairs in order, but I'm going to be doing some streaming on Friday in the morning time, and it'll be a longer day. I'll probably be doing somewhere around like a 10-hour stream. Probably have like a little bit of variety in there between the survival horror game I've been playing, Dead by Daylight, maybe a little bit of Lost Ark, testing out a couple other different classes, and then probably on Saturday playing a little bit more Lost Ark and some more Dead by Daylight.
Nice. And I forgot Sparrow too. Sparrow, what are you up to this week?
Tomorrow we have on my Twitch channel, we're still hanging out in ESO. There's Bounty Code and myself and our good friends who are also Plus members. We'll be doing that. And Sunday we're almost wrapping up our Dungeons and Dragons. So if you want to catch the last couple weeks of it or so, that's on Weave and Void Twitch channel. So
Nice.
Sunday nights at 10 Eastern.
Nice. And Theric?
Nothing much. Just another lore exploring video goes up tomorrow on our YouTube channel. And then, of course, always the Rewind Sunday at noon. Me and Desrin will be talking about the Pantheon Dev newsletter that comes out this week. So sure to check that out.
Nice. So I have really cool generated grade sheets for this, and so I'm going to go through the video and I'm going to put all those grades down and get little report cards, and we'll post those on Twitter and also in the Discord, so you can be looking forward to those. And also this whole episode, we don't normally put the entire MMO episode on the YouTube, but for this episode, the grading episode, I think it'd be cool to have like a record of that. So we're gonna I guess I didn't talk to Theric about this, but as long as Theric gives me the thumbs up, we're gonna put the entire episode on YouTube, so people
All
can
good.
go back and review it. I think that's good for posterity. So if you
Yes.
missed part of it, the whole thing will be on there.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. All right. Well, the crew will see you next week, but I will see you in 2 weeks for some Lost Ark. So everybody wave bye-bye to the peoples.
Bye.
Good night. Good
Bye,
night.
everyone.
Pantheon Plus was founded on the idea of community matters. Our mission is to foster the most engaged, kind, and helpful community that any MMORPG has ever seen. Your participation fuels not only different ideas from different points of view, it's also the foundation of everything we do at Pantheon Plus. We strive to be the megaphone that gets your opinions and viewpoints out there to be discussed. And the best part is, more than any other game we've seen, the devs are listening.
So we invite and encourage you to drop in on Discord and leave a question for the rewind. Or maybe you'd prefer to join the green room and add your 2 cents to the newest content that is dropped for Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. Or maybe you want to write some fan fiction and put it on the Pantheon Plus website. Or if you're really brave, you could do a Plus profile with me and tell everyone about your MMO gaming history.
We want you to stop lurking in the background and start to make your mark on the world of Terminus. So when that glorious day comes and Pantheon launches, everyone will know the name of your adventurer. Community matters.
#Community Matters.